let's talk about Melbourne. I left Melbourne for last, even though it was the third show of the tour, because for Melbourne, I went all out and bought one of the Nothing Else Matters complete total fanboy packages. As I said, wasn't leaving anything on the table for this tour. The weather was hideous that day. I had to get to the arena by 2 p.m, which was about 3 hours earlier than everybody else. And due to my self-awareness of being vaguely useless and the fact that this meet and greet was unfortunately cancelled once before, there was a lot riding on this and I was vaguely terrified. So I get to Docklands and I just park in the first available car park because, hey, once I'm parked, I'm there, right? And as it turns out, I parked in the wrong car park. I was on the complete wrong side of the arena, but that's fine. I was there, so I walked all the way around and it was freezing. And it was easy to spot because there was already a small line of other nut jobs just like me. We talked absolute garbage for a while, just waiting for us to be let in, and then eventually we were let in. We had to do a sign-in and a check-in first, where they gave us our Yeti cups and our lanyards and everything like that, and we also had to do a COVID check. Now this COVID check actually gave me a fair bit of terror. You see, I had already seen Metallica twice. So by that stage, I had already screamed my lungs out at 2 other Metallica shows. So my voice was not doing great. Oh, and no, I'm not sorry for damaging my voice by screaming at Metallica shows. I think, it's exactly how you should damage your voice. However, as I'm standing there waiting for this COVID test to clear, I couldn't help but be hyper aware of the fact that my throat was sore and everything like that, and it was cold and it was wet and miserable. So, suddenly just psychologically, I was giving myself the flu just standing there. Fortunately, obviously, I got in, otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation. Well, we would probably still be having this conversation, but it'd be a very, very different conversation. So we met our hosts, and I am very ashamed to say I've forgotten your names, but both of you fellas who led us around that day were both amazing hosts. So please, if you watch this, please remind me of your names because you guys were amazing. We had one running joke going because almost the first question that one of our hosts got asked each time was, how long have you been working with Metallica for? And obviously his answer didn't change. It was 9 years. But it was just funny how that was almost always the first question he was asked. So the first thing that we got to do was the tour of the stage. It was pretty surreal to walk into the venue with basically nobody in there and just sort of see the place. So just heading for the production tour now. Still freaking out. It was surreal knowing that in a few hours that place was going to be full of people and screaming with all sorts of amazing noises. Walking onto the Metallica stage as well was kinda surreal as well. The thought of being an individual human being who runs up and down on that stage, playing guitar while 50,000 people scream at you, how does your brain process that? How do you even manage to comprehend what you're doing and what's going on? It was just mind-blowing. All the gear that they had on the stage looked tiny. Everything, none of it looked like it was proper size. But not only that, me as a human being felt tiny standing on that gigantic stage. Especially standing underneath those giant M's and those giant A's for Metallica. You felt this big. If I'm honest, it was kind of overwhelming just standing on that stage. We were given a big rundown on how long it takes to set everything up and how many trucks it takes and all the shipping and everything like that. I've well and truly forgotten all those numbers because I'm terrible with numbers, but I do remember just sort of staying there the entire time going, oh my God. I've never been part of a large scale production, but I've helped out on some minor productions here and there. And it's a completely different world. Not just that, but hearing all the redundancies that they had to make sure everything runs smoothly. You walked away with the impression that the whole Metallica machine is an incredibly efficiently run machine. Then we were able to walk backstage. Now, being the nerd that I am, have I watched all the gear rundowns with every Metallica tech and everything like that 1,000 times? Yeah, of course I have. I have seen those workbenches, those guitars, those flight cases. I've seen all of that a million times before. But the audio nerd in me was thrilled to see it all in person. And I know that sounds bizarre. But when I've watched those videos myself, sitting at home and going, whoa, look at that. I mean, then to be standing in front of that thing for real, it was cool. Fanboy glee was already going through the roof. Oops, terribly sorry, sir. Seriously, I have spent hours studying Metallica's gear, and not just their guitars, but also the stuff that they plug into. And I mean, you wouldn't think it would be possible to get like romantic over an Axe Effects, but seeing their Axe Effects in person, yeah, that gave me fanboy glee. Especially knowing what those Axe Effects and everything was about to do, it was sick. So after the stage tour, that's when we got to do the meet and greet. It was announced that we were going to go do the meet and greet, and then we were led through a tunnel under the arena back to the small room where we would meet members of Metallica. Stage is mind-blowing, and walking to the meet and greet. There were about 20 of us in total, and we were led into a small room where we were all told to take a seat, and they explained the rules to us. Don't get me wrong, the rules were very straightforward. The rules can basically be summarized as don't be a jerk. They had 72 seasons playing out of a small PA while we waited for the members to show up. The hosts bantered with us about their tattoos and all the bands that they've played with, and all the variety of Metallica shows that they've seen. And we also had a bit of a laugh how there were 4 different people in our group who all had the name Matt. Lars walked in first, and he immediately started joking around with everyone. He asked people what shows they had seen before, and he scared the hell out of me because he knew every single one of those shows bang off the top of his head. So somebody was able to say, oh yeah, I saw you guys back in 2001 at London Arena or whatever. And Lars was like, oh yeah, so that was with this support act. We opened with this song. I think we played this song, which we hadn't played for a while. And just listed all these facts from the show that person had just randomly mentioned. He found out that there were 4 people in that room called Matt, and he instantly joked that he was there to see Metallica. Kirk joined about 5-10 minutes later, and he immediately talked about how much the weather sucked and that he couldn't go surfing, which was fair. It was freezing. It was terrible weather. He talked about how he can feel the barometric pressure and that when it's low, that everything feels really heavy to him. He then asked if we all feel the same thing, like if we can feel the heaviness of the air. We just gave him a room full of blank stares, which was pretty funny. And Kirk then said, if he's terrible that night, it's due to the barometric pressure. Fair shout. So then we all lined up and took our photos. Based on the side of the room you walked in, depending on whose hand you shook first, I got to shake Kirk's hand first and then shook Lars's hand. Lars made an effort to make sure he got everybody's name right, even Matt's. Both said I had a cool shirt on when we got the photo done, and that was awesome. As I was walking away, I told Kirk that the solo in 1 is the reason why I play guitar, and that truthfully, I still can't play it. He laughed and said, don't worry about it. You'll get there eventually, and there's some nights that he can't even play it right as well. So after we all got our photos taken, we got to see Kirk and Lars be lovely with all their fans and everything like that. That's when the Q&A began. Since I've been attempting to rehearse a question ever since I got the first meet and greet ticket, yeah, I had 1,000 things going on in my head. So my hand went up straight away. So the question I asked was, so I've been trying to figure out for over a year now what to ask you guys. Like if you get to ask your gods a question, what do you say? And to be honest, I kind of got nothing because it's such a big deal. Lars jumped in at that point in time and he said, "Oh, so you got nothing. Easiest question we've ever asked. Thanks a lot for coming along." Like, seriously, Lars is quick, man. So after we all had a laugh, I finished my question. I said that they've been in the fortunate position that they've not only got to meet their gods, but I mean, sometimes even played with them on stage before. So what did they say when they got to meet their gods? Kirk answered the question for me and he replied, "I never know what to say either, man, but it's important to hold on to that. To still have that level of respect and love for someone who's an icon to you is inspirational for you and it'll get you to cool stuff. When I've met my heroes, I make sure to tell them because it's important for them to hear because it always lights them up that somebody else thinks that way about them. So it's always great to hear that from somebody, and in a way, it closes the circle between musician and the fan to know that that connection is there." There were some other great questions at that point in time, but to be honest, I was kind of dazed. Everything was overwhelming for me at that day. I got to have a chat with Kirk. I mean, what an amazing experience. At the end, though, somebody did ask what they thought about Dave Mustaine covering Ride the Lightning. And Lars replied saying, "Listen, it doesn't matter what we say. If we say good things about Dave, it gets turned into bad things. If we say bad things, it gets turned into worse things. If we say nothing, it gets turned into bad things. So we're just not going to answer any questions about Dave," which was a pretty fair response. Overall, the experience was just mind-boggling. As I said, Kirk's the reason why I play guitar, and to shake the hand that plays the guitar solo in one, yeah, I mean, what do you want me to say? My one regret is that I totally snubbed the hell out of Lars. I didn't mean to, but in hindsight, you know, when I was writing all this up, I realized that I didn't really talk to Lars at all, which I regret because I was super impressed by Lars. Lars clearly has a brain the size of a planet. Like, the moment Lars walks into the room, you just know that someone really smart has walked in. As I said, not only is he like quick and really witty, but he knew everything just straight off the top of his head. It was one of those moments where you spend 4 seconds talking to someone and you're just instantly aware that you're talking to someone who's significantly smarter than you and just operating on a different level. People often ask why Lars is the drummer for Metallica, considering that Lars doesn't have the best reputation as a drummer. But seriously, after spending like 10 seconds of being in the same room as Lars, it's immediately clear why Lars is in Metallica. It didn't matter what band Lars was in. Lars was going to make sure that that band was in the right place at the right time, in front of the right people, doing the exact right thing to make sure that that band was going to be number one in the world. The reason why you've all heard of Metallica is basically because of Lars. The reason why you've heard Hetfield's amazing rhythm guitar playing, and the reason why you heard Cliff Burton's amazing bass solos and Kirk's guitar solos and everything like that, the reason why you've heard all that so many times is because Lars made sure Metallica were in the right place at the right time doing the exact right thing. So yeah, in all honesty, like, it took 2 minutes for my level of respect for Lars to go straight through the roof. And as I said, I kind of regret that I didn't end up really talking to Lars and I kind of snubbed him. But look, I was just overwhelmed with everything else that was going on. My brain could handle Kirk or Lars. It couldn't handle Kirk and Lars. All up, they probably spent about 45 minutes answering questions and hanging out with us before they had to leave to go do a thing that they had booked for that night. I actually really like the way that they did this Q&A because you got to experience being in a room and having a conversation with them without like all the onus being on you to keep the conversation going. It's you and your idols, but there's 20 other people in the room with you. So if you can't think of anything intelligent to say, don't worry about it. 20 other people might have something good to say to keep the conversation going. And then that's really, really good because then everybody benefits from that as well. Everybody benefits from somebody else asking a really good question rather than you just having that one-on-one awkward experience. It's actually a really, really good way of doing it. It's almost like after doing 30 years of meet and greets, they've figured out the best way to do a meet and greet. So after that, we all shuffled out and we were sent to the Black Box, which is an exclusive bar that they set up at the venue for us Psycho fans. In there, they've got a small Metallica museum with all sorts of Metallica nerd stuff that gave me joy and just like made my jaw drop that, oh my God, there's the lyric sheet from Master of Puppets. As I said earlier, these days Metallica play Axe-Effects live. So in the corner, they actually had Axe-Effects set up with their patches and stage played instruments so that you could go play their instruments. So what do you think the guy who runs a gear channel on YouTube did? Obviously, I beelined and went and played their gear. I was shocked to find out that the experience of me putting my hands on a guitar that James Hetfield has played on stage and playing it as well. I mean, dream come true. Let me just emphasize that for a moment, yeah? Attention everyone, I got to play Hetfield's guitar. No, I haven't washed my hands yet. Don't be ridiculous. Why would I do that? Oh, I also got to play Kirk's guitar. And I got to play Rob's bass. And I also got to annoy everyone by sitting behind one of Lars's kits and badly stuffing up the machine gun part for one. Seriously, how nuts is that? I got to play Hetfield's guitar. Like, was this not the greatest day of my life? So, aside from the fanboy joy, let me put my nerd hat on and let me explain what it was like playing Hetfield's guitar. It was really, really interesting. First of all, he has an action that's higher than you expect. It's definitely not a high action, but it's a little bit higher than what you'd expect it to be. Also, I believe that he's basically got his strings set flat, so they don't really follow the fretboard radius. This initially felt really weird for me, but then I noticed how comfortable it made my picking hand, because all the strings were in the same spot for my picking hand. And that's when it made 1,000,000% sense why Hetfield probably likes his guitar set with, the strings relatively flat. On top of that, he likes a good sized neck. It's definitely not like an Ibanez neck. I wouldn't quite go so far to say it's a Gibson baseball bat, but it's a big chunky neck. So put on the headphones, plugged in, and I started playing it. And I was really surprised at how martially his sound was. He's famous for the Mesa 2C Pluses, but I do believe that for 72 seasons, he's dug out some of his vintage Marshalls that he's had modded and hot rodded for all sorts of gain. And yeah, it really, really shows with that Axe-Effects patch I was playing. I mean, I'm pretty certain he's always had a Marshall buried in there somewhere, but this time it seemed, probably like 75% Marshall. However, the big shock came when I did some palm muted chugs. It was insane. The speed of the note was unlike anything I've ever experienced. It was just like immediate. It was simultaneously a crack and a chug at the same time. It was so percussive and, chuggy that I didn't know you could do that to a guitar or get it to sound like that. Like when I moved away from like the bottom three strings and was doing some noodling and some very bad blues licks, it was, like playing a normal guitar. But then when I went to those bottom three strings and, choked down and did palm mutes, it was like you were cracking a planet in half. I used to have an Axe-Effects. I've made a video about it. And I have no idea how he set up his guitar or how he set up his patches to do that. It was absolutely insane. Kirk's guitar was also a surprise. It was obviously set up very shreddy, so, light strings, very, very low action and so on and so forth. Beautiful to play. But the amount of gain that man uses is insane. Like overall, I found his setup very difficult to control with the amount of gain that he uses. And this is the thing that I don't think people give Kirk enough credit for. Like, don't get me wrong, Hetfield is the rhythm god, but Kirk has to play those riffs too. And the fact that he's playing those riffs with the amount of gain that I experienced, I have no idea how he does that. Seriously, Kirk, I mean, massive amount of respect for you to be able to play with that much gain and keep it that tightly under control. Just amazing work, man. From playing both of those guitars, it became immediately obvious that those two guitar players exist in a completely different realm from us mere mortals. Rob's bass was also very impressive. I'm gotta admit, I'm not a massive fan of the Warwick thing, so I didn't love playing his bass, but at the same time, it made sense why you would choose that. His tone was different to what I expected as well. He's got a very, very pronounced clean tone, but then there's a lot of fuzz around the edges. That really solid clean tone helps keep the transient intact, which I think is how Rob keeps jumping out in the mix, obviously in a good way. I also imagine that all that fuzz I mentioned is sort of like the glue that really holds everything together, because you have to admit, with Rob playing bass in Metallica, Rob does help Metallica sound amazing. In hindsight, I don't know why it surprised me so much that he played with such a clean tone, because when you check out like Newsted's isolated bass tracks, yeah, he was playing with a relatively clean Ampeggy sort of noise, and Rob has sort of kept the same vibe going. While in the bar, they ran a few trivia contests and a few different games and stuff like that, and they kept the entire experience going really, really well. I was stoked to win a stubby holder in that trivia contest because I was in a room full of Metallica nerds and I still knew more than they did. Get on my level, you filthy casuals. I didn't use stubby holders, but these days it's become a bit of a trophy for me, and I pretty much have a beer out of it every day because it's a bit of a good luck charm for me now. You were free to stay in the bar for as long as you like. You had a really good view of the stage and everything like that, so you could have watched the whole show from up there, but I had a pass for the snake pit. Wasn't going to miss out on that. And here's the thing about that day. Think back to me talking about the Perth gig, how before the Perth gig I was like a mess. I was a mess of excitement and everything like that, and I was like, can we go, can we go, can we go? Everything that had happened in that day for Melbourne, I had forgotten that I was about to see a Metallica gig. It was a sort of day where if I stopped concentrating on like absorbing as much as possible, I was liable to burst into tears from fanboy joy at any second. So I got some food into me, had a couple of free drinks, and then I went down to the snake pit. Yeah, it was pretty sick walking there. You kind of get to stride in front of the whole crowd while you walk into your own little VIP section right in front of everybody else. It's hard not to feel a bit like a king when you do it. And I mean, what a shock that the view from the snake pit is freaking spectacular. While it's true that you can't see the whole stage or even like every member at every time, Metallica are really, really good with their stagecraft, as I talked about before, and you almost always have a member playing right in front of your face. Also, while it's kind of weird to sort of be standing in a spot where sometimes Metallica are performing with their backs to you, it's actually an amazing view because you get to see, you know, a Metallica band member ripping out an amazing solo or something, and you get to see the whole audience in front of you. So you get to sort of see everything that's going on, but from the other perspective. So even though they're like backers to you, it's actually a really amazing view. I was close enough that I could hear and watch how Hetfield frets all of his riffs. I could watch Kirk tapping on his fretboard, and I was so close that I could hear Lars's kit in front of me before it came out of the PA. Now, even though I'm into my proper thrash metal like Testament and Exodus and so on and so forth, The Memory Remains has a special place for me because that was the first Metallica song I ever heard. In fact, I would go so far as to say that was the first metal song I had ever heard as well. And when I first heard it, it blew my head off with how heavy it was. Like, I just remember sitting there going, you can't do this to music. But not only were they doing it, it sounded awesome. I mean, when I first heard it, I didn't think music could get heavier. Obviously, I was wrong because one day I heard the entire Injustice for All album. But at the same time, for me, at that point in time, that was the heaviest and best thing I had ever heard. So when Metallica busted that out right in front of me, like, yeah, it was a bit of a full circle moment, if I can steal what Kirk was saying earlier. The pyro was also hilariously good fun. Look, I'm a simple man. I see fire, I have a good time. That being said, I'm pretty certain it roasted everyone in the snake pit to a nice even medium rare, which was welcome from the rain that we had earlier that day. I also got to watch Kirk play one right up close. I mean, what do you want me to say? The only negative I'll say about the day is that by the time Metallica got up to their encore, I was done. I was absolutely wrecked. Aside from the fact that I'd just been flying around the country everywhere, it was a sort of day where every 2 hours something amazing was happening. And by the time that the show was nearly over, I was already cooked. Also, the pyro helped cook me a little bit as well. Honestly, it was pretty much the best day of my life. On the way out, we walked past our host, who handed us a personally signed set list from all 4 members of the band. So we only got to meet 2, but we got something signed by all 4 members, which was a pretty good way of handling things. It's good because you actually get all their signatures rather than just the 2 you meet, so I think it's a good compromise. When I drove myself home that night, I actually didn't play music in the car. I was just sort of dazed, just trying to process everything that had happened that day. And ultimately, that's why I wanted to make this video. I want to remember every aspect of this tour. I want a place where I can come and see all my photos, see all my videos, and just remember everything that happened for these 3 weeks. I don't want it to be like in a couple of years' time where I'm like, oh wait, was that moment in Perth or was that in Brisbane? I want to be able to go to a place where I can see all those memories and remember exactly where those moments happened, because these 3 weeks are 3 weeks that I want to remember. So that was it. That was my Metallica tour. It was 3 of probably the best weeks of my life. I got to hug fluffy animals. I got to hang out with mates, some of which I don't get to see anywhere near as often as I should. I got to fly all around Australia. Oh, yeah, and I saw Metallica 5 times. I met Lars and Kirk. I got to play their instruments. I got to walk on stage. I got thrown around in several mosh pits. Like, best 3 weeks of anybody's life ever. And I've been asked the question a couple of times by my mates of like, would you do such an elaborate trip again? And the answer is yes, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. When Metallica come back to Australia, am I doing the exact same thing? Yep. In fact, I want to quote Lars now from S&M. Same time next year?
This is 203.